Discover the incredible moment a little girl transformed the Millionaire twins crying on a plane. Clara clutched her worn-out stuffed bear, Eddie, as she boarded the plane, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and worry. She was off to see her beloved grandmother in Ohio, whose health was fading. With her mother working 2 jobs in the bustling heart of New York City, Clara had learned early on about love and resilience. As she settled into her seat, she couldn't help but notice 2 boys across the aisle, Andrew and Dylan, the prodigious sons of a wealthy tech mogul. They looked perfect, with their designer clothes and expensive earbuds, but the tears streaming down their cheeks told a different story. "Why are you crying?" Clara asked, her bright eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity. The boys stiffened, stifling their sobs. She could hear whispers of disbelief among nearby passengers. A little girl, confronting boys who seemed to have it all? How audacious. My dad expects too much," Andrew finally muttered, while Dylan nodded in agreement, wiping his eyes. Clara felt an urge to comfort them. She began speaking about her own challenges. "My mom works double shifts just to make sure I have food and a roof over my head. But you know what? We're a family. And I love her more than anything." In that moment, a flicker of understanding passed between them. She offered Eddie, her cherished bear, as a token of friendship, a symbol of warmth. "You can hold him when you're feeling scared," she said, her earnestness melting some of the icy walls around the boys' hearts. Andrew hesitated for just a second before accepting Eddie, a small smile breaking through the clouds of despair, but just then, the plane hit turbulence, shaking and rattling like a roller coaster. Instantly, the boys' bravado crumpled. They gripped their arms tightly, fear distorting their perfect features. Clara's heart raced, but she knew this was her chance. "It's okay to feel scared," she called out, the unfiltered spirit of an 8-year-old shining through. "I'm scared too. It's just the airplane. Let us hold hands, okay?" Andrew and Dylan glanced at each other, their vulnerability bare for all to see. The cabin was a symphony of whispers, and Clara's fearless kindness seemed to break the solemn tension. Would they let her in, or burrow back into isolation? Clara's words hung heavy in the air, a lifebuoy in a sea of uncertainty. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As the turbulence raged, the twins looked towards Clara. Her wide grin and outstretched hands radiated warmth. Here was a girl who had every reason to turn her back on the pain around her, yet she offered her kindness freely. In that moment, Clara became a mirror reflecting broken dreams, showing them what true connection meant: to embrace feelings, rather than suppress them. As the fasten seatbelt sign flickered on, Clara's gaze fixed on Andrew and Dylan, waiting. Would they break free from their gilded cages? The plane descended, filled with whispers and heartbeat-quick anxieties. Whatever awaited them on the ground, Clara's bright spirit and genuine connection had ignited a flicker of hope, but the final choice remained: would the twins dare to embrace a friendship that could change their lives forever? The plane shuddered slightly again, and Clara felt her palms sweat as she gazed at the twins. Her heart raced not only from the fear of flying but also from anticipation. Would they reach out? Andrew's eyes darted toward Dylan, who hesitated for a heartbeat before grabbing his brother's hand. Clara's smile widened. "See? We are all in this together," she declared, beaming. The boys exchanged tentative glances, their sobs receding into soft sniffles. There was a flicker of understanding in their expressions. Perhaps they weren't alone in their struggles. In that crowded cabin, a trio formed, bonded by shared fear but now anchored by kindness. As the turbulence eased, Andrew clutched Eddie tightly. "Thank you, Clara," he murmured. His voice was still trembling, but it carried a spark of appreciation. "I guess sometimes, it's just a lot to deal with." Clara nodded fiercely, her small face earnest. I get that. Like when my mom had to go to the hospital. I was scared, but I had to be brave for her. Dylan leaned forward, curiosity igniting in his eyes. What happened? Clara placed Eddie in her lap, her fingers tracing the worn fabric. She got sick last summer. I was real scared she wouldn't come back. But she did. We learned to fight together. It makes us strong. Her words felt true and genuine, like they held the power to lift heavy hearts. Andrew leaned in closer now, intrigued. Did you cry? A lot. But that's okay, she replied, her voice a gentle whisper. Crying means you're brave enough to feel. Their conversation flowed like a stream, with laughter splashing in despite the nerve-wracking conditions. Other passengers began to glance over, awareness dawning as they witnessed a moment where pain met empathy. Do you think it's okay to be sad? Dylan asked, his emotional walls crumbling brick by brick. Clara's eyes shined with a knowing light. Definitely. It helps you heal. My mom says that sometimes it's the sad moments that make the happy ones even better. Wow, Andrew said, a soft smile creeping onto his face. I want that, too. I mean, I don't want to be sad all the time, but maybe feeling it is okay? The boys were finding their footing, inching closer to a world where vulnerability felt safe. Just then, the overhead speaker crackled. Ladies and gentlemen, we are expecting some light turbulence as we make our descent into Ohio. Please remain seated and fasten your seatbelts. Clara felt the weight of the announcement hang in the air. Anxiety began to creep back into the atmosphere. But instead of retreating, Andrew tightened his grip on Dylan's hand and nodded toward Clara. In that moment, she could feel that something had shifted. The boys were no longer simply the millionaire twins she had thought tucked behind a wall of wealth. They were human, just like her. Let us squeeze hands. Clara suggested, lifting her own small hand toward them. We did this together, right? Andrew and Dylan followed suit, their grip shy but firm. Together, their hands formed a bridge of courage. Clara breathed in, not just for herself, but for her new friends. The plane lurched slightly again, and laughter broke out between them, a shared blend of timidness and courage. As they settled deeper into the upcoming moment, Clara wondered what awaited them in Ohio and whether the boys would want to remain friends once they landed. Their journey was just beginning. Little did they know, a phone call was about to change everything for Andrew. The truth about their father's expectations would soon be revealed. How would they navigate it together? The plane's descent felt surreal, a mix of hurried heartbeats and hopeful whispers. As they continued to cling to each other's hands, Clara could feel the warmth radiating from Andrew and Dylan, a warmth that pushed away the chill of fear. It was strange how three kids, each lost in their own worlds, could connect so fiercely in the span of just a few moments. As the plane dipped lower, the view outside transformed, the blue sky melting into soft green fields speckled with patches of sunshine. Clara stole glances at her new friends. Andrew's brow furrowed slightly, the weight of something heavy settling in his eyes. Dylan's hand was warm but shaky, betraying the bravado he tried to show. Hey, Clara said softly, you okay? Dylan nodded quickly, but his eyes told a different story. He seemed to be lost in his thoughts, a worry brewing beneath his calm facade. Andrew turned to Clara, his expression shifting to one of determination. What if we get there and our dad? He trailed off, the fear of unspoken words hanging in the air. Clara felt her heart tighten. She didn't know what it was like living under enormous expectations, but she sensed this family struggle was looming over the twins. It's okay to be worried, she replied gently, but you have us now. You can tell us. Before either boy could respond, the plane jolted once more, causing the seatbelts to grip tightly. The laughter faded, replaced by a collective intake of breath as the cabin hummed with unease. Clara's stomach fluttered, matching the rhythm of the plane, but she drew strength from the warmth of their hands together. Remember when I told you about crying? She said, trying to distract from the turbulence. It relieves the stress. Andrew looked at her, a spark of curiosity igniting once more. But what if it makes things worse? Clara shook her head fiercely. No way. It helps let the feelings out. If you hold it all in, it only gets heavier. I promise that when the clouds clear, it feels lighter. There was a long pause filled with silence, the hum of the engines a soft undertone. Andrew glanced at his brother, then back to Clara. I guess sometimes tears can be good, huh? A smile spread across Clara's face. She could feel their hesitation starting to merge into something solid, something hopeful. Exactly. Like storms make rainbows. Warmth filled the space where doubt had lingered, and the boys nodded slowly, as if she had cracked open a door to understanding that had been locked for too long. Just then, the phone on Andrew's lap buzzed, urgent and unexpected. His heart sank momentarily as he pulled it up, eyes widening at the screen. The message was from their father, demanding their attention upon landing. The weight of expectation crashed down on him. The flight that had felt like a chance at friendship suddenly morphed into a path lined with obligations. What does it say? Dylan urged, already sensing the tension tightened in the air. Andrew's fingers trembled over the device, his gaze intent on the words that could predict their future. He wants to talk about the family business. I don't know how to do that. Clara squeezed their hands tighter, her expression filled with urgency. You don't have to face this alone. You have each other. You can decide together what you want. In that moment, the cabin filled with the noise of other passengers preparing for landing, but the trio was sealed in their own world. A mix of fear and courage fused their feelings, intertwining their fates. As the plane landed with a thud, Clara felt her heart skip. What awaited them on solid ground? Would they continue to lean on one another as they navigated the turbulent waters ahead? They could taste the unknown. Andrew inhaled deeply, preparing to face the truth, while Clara held her breath, hoping the bonds they had forged would be strong enough to withstand the storms to come. Would they break down or rise together? And with that, as the plane doors slid open, they stepped into a world that would challenge everything they'd learned together. The rush of cool air greeted Clara, Andrew, and Dylan as they stepped off the plane, hitting like a wave, washing away the chaos of their flight. The terminal buzzed with the chatter of families and travelers, the sound mingling with the scent of coffee and pastries from nearby cafes. Clara's heart raced, not just from the brisk air but from the weight of what lay ahead. Sunlight poured through the tall windows like liquid gold, illuminating their path, but Clara couldn't shake the shadow that loomed over the twins. Andrew's face was pale, his eyes darting around as if trying to escape. Dylan, on the other hand, wore a mask of bravado, but Clara could sense the crack beneath it, a vulnerable fissure that begged for support. Let us take a moment, Clara suggested, her voice a soothing balm over the loud crowd. They huddled together near a bench, away from the flow of passengers. The weight of the world felt heavy on their young shoulders, and Clara could see how unsure they both were about the next step. We don't have to go straight to him, you know, she offered. We can breathe first. Get our bearings. Andrew fixed his gaze on the floor, the lines of the tiles mirroring the jumble of thoughts in his mind. What if he's disappointed? What if we're not what he wants us to be? Dylan looked between them, his own uncertainty bubbling up. Yeah, what if he just sees us as a business investment? What if we're just a part of the family brand? His voice trembled, and Clara felt her chest tighten with empathy. You're more than that. Clara exclaimed, her urgency breaking through their haze of fear. You're brothers. You're friends. You're a team. Whatever that guy wants, you get to decide what that means. Together. Andrew finally looked up, a spark of defiance flickering in his eyes. You think so? I mean, it feels like all the decisions are made for us. Clara nodded, her heart swelling with determination. Well, you can change that. But it starts with having your own voice. If you want it to be more about family than business, then you fight for that. Fight together. Dylan let out a shaky breath, like he was considering the new path laid before them. What if we don't know how? What if all we do is disappoint him again? Just think of it like a game, Clara smiled, hoping to lighten the mood. You figure out the rules as you go along. You're both smart. If he says something you don't like, speak up. You can make choices that matter, and you'll have each other to back you up. As they stood there, Clara felt the corners of her heart warm, even under the heaviness of uncertainty. The world might feel chaotic just outside, but in this little huddle, they were fortified. The boy's shoulders relaxed a fraction, and she was reminded how solidarity could ease burdens, even if just slightly. "Okay, let us do this," Andrew said, determination shifting the lines on his face, strength returning to his posture. "We figure out a way to talk to Dad, on our terms. Together." "Yeah, together," Dylan echoed, a small grin breaking through his anxious expression. They shared a brief moment of camaraderie before they turned back towards the exit. The open doors now felt like a portal, leading them into the unknown with a burgeoning sense of purpose. As they stepped into the waiting area, Clara caught sight of the imposing figure of their father in the distance, waiting amidst the crowd. He looked every bit the strong businessman, his presence commanding. Clara's heart raced, a mix of anxiety and excitement swelling within. "Remember what we talked about?" she whispered to the boys, squeezing their hands. "Yeah," Andrew replied, a flicker of hope igniting in his expression. Suddenly, Clara felt an unexpected pang of fear grip her. What would happen when they spoke? Would they rise, or would the chains of expectation drag them down? As they approached, her breath hitched, and she could almost feel the ground beneath her tremble with uncertainty. The moment of truth loomed ahead, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was only just beginning. Would they have the courage to embrace their identities and confront the weight of legacy? Clara led the way, pulling the twins along like a lifeline. Each step felt heavier than the last, the anticipation escalating with every heartbeat. They navigated through the crowd, the sea of faces blurring into a wave of anxiety and hope. Andrew and Dylan exchanged wary glances, their breaths shallow. "There he is," Andrew whispered, pointing slightly. Clara's gaze followed, settling on the tall figure standing near the exit. Their father, a man wrapped in tailored elegance, seemed imbued with an aura of authority. His posture was rigid, shoulders squared, and he glanced down at his watch, not a gesture of impatience, but rather a signal that this moment had been long anticipated. Clara's grip on the twins' hands tightened. "Remember, you're not alone. Just be yourselves," she breathed, her voice firm with conviction, as if it could shield them from the intimidating reality ahead. Okay, Dylan muttered, nodding more to himself than Clara. Andrew straightened his back, 2 inches taller. He looked almost ready to face the storm. As they reached the last few steps, their father turned to them, the stoic expression melting into something more nuanced. "Boys," he greeted, his voice deep and smooth, but Clara could hear the unspoken weight behind it. "Hi, Dad," Andrew replied, his tone wavering slightly as he stepped forward, Dylan at his side. There was a brief silence, a moment cradled by the bustling airport noise that faded around them. Clara sensed the invisible barrier that separated them from their father, filled with years of distance, expectations, and unvoiced sentiments. "Are you ready to talk?" Their father's eyes were sharp, analyzing the boys as if weighing them against uncharted criteria. Andrew and Dylan shared a glance, the familiarity of brotherhood merging with their new resolve. Clara took a breath. "Actually, we would like to set the tone for this conversation, if that's okay," she interjected, surprising herself with her courage. She saw the way their father's brow furrowed, a flicker of curiosity igniting within. "Is that so?" he said, folding his arms, clearly intrigued but also showing signs of defense. The challenge was set, the ground shook beneath them, but Clara felt the boy's hand squeeze tighter in solidarity. "Yeah. We want to be who we are, not some investment or brand extension." Andrew's words spilled out with a mix of determination and vulnerability. His voice shook slightly, but he stood firm. Clara beamed, pride swelling in her chest for the boy who was finding his voice. Dylan added more confidently, "We want to know who you really are too. Not just the businessman who makes deals, but the dad who," he faltered, but pushed through. "The dad who was there with us, or wasn't he?" His voice caught in his throat. Clara watched every emotion flicker across his face, a raw honesty unwinding itself. Their father's expression shifted from one of control to something softer, almost like contemplation. He opened his mouth, then paused. Clara felt as if time slowed and eternity compressed into silence. "Okay," he began, the word barely escaping his lips. "Let us talk." It was the crack they needed, a tiny opening through which their hopes could pour into, like light spilling into a dark room. Andrew and Dylan exchanged glances again, this time with a little less apprehension and a lot more promise. But as they stepped forward into that light, Clara's heart began to race again. What truths awaited them? Would the revelations bring them together, or tear them even further apart? The weight of possibility hung heavy in the air, filling her with hope and dread all at once. "What do you really want, boys?" their father prompted, eyes flickering with genuine interest. They were on the precipice of something monumental. Clara felt it in her bones. And as Andrew opened his mouth to respond, the world around them faded away into a blur of anticipation. Would they finally discover not just the dad they had missed, but the family they longed to be? Andrew hesitated, the words swirling in his mind like a whirlwind. He looked at Dylan, searching for support. This was more than just a conversation, it was the chance to redefine their relationship with a man who felt like a distant silhouette rather than a father. Andrew inhaled deeply, steeling himself. "We want to understand you. Not just your work, but what you value." He paused, his brow knitting together in thought. "What makes you happy?" Dylan chimed in, his voice steadier now. "It's been hard for us, Dad. You're always busy." He gestured around, overwhelmed by the crowd still buzzing around them. "We don't know you. And, it hurts." Their father's eyes softened, and for the first time, Clara caught a glimpse of the man hidden beneath the armor. "You think I don't want to be there?" "It's not that," Andrew quickly responded, feeling the tension shift. "We get it. You have responsibilities. But we're your family too. And sometimes it feels like we're just in the way." The silence that followed was heavy, charged with the weight of years unsaid. Clara felt her heart pounding in her chest. She was trembling yet hopeful. Maybe this was the beginning of a new chapter. "Do you really think I never wanted to be there?" Their father's voice was tight, tinged with pain. It was like watching a dam break, the waters of his long-buried emotions rushing forth. He ran a hand through his hair, letting out a breath that felt more like a confession. "I thought I was doing the right thing. For you. By working all the time?" Dylan asked, a hint of defiance tinging his tone. "We only wanted you to show up, even if it was just to watch a movie with us." Andrew steadied his brother's resolve with a slight nod, feeling the urgency in their truths. "Maybe I got lost," their father admitted, his voice lowering almost to a whisper. "I lost what it meant to be a dad trying to be a provider." "I'm sorry for that." Clara watched, breathless. Her heart swelled as she felt the rift starting to mend, thread by thread. They were standing at the edge of something profound, and yet, fear gnawed at her. What if this conversation spiraled back into the old patterns? "Can you tell us more?" Andrew urged cautiously. "About when you were younger? Before all of this?" He gestured broadly around the airport, his voice echoing a quiet plea for connection. Their father seemed to consider this, his eyes drifting as he searched for the right words. "I wasn't always this way," he began slowly. "I wanted to be someone who mattered. And in that pursuit, I forgot what really mattered." Dylan stepped closer, the three of them forming a small circle of intimacy amid the busy chaos of the airport. "You matter to us," he said softly. "We just want to know." "In a way, your absence made us feel invisible," Andrew finished for him, his voice barely above a whisper. There was a flicker of movement on their father's face, a mix of regret and something softer. Clara felt her hope surge. Would this honesty lead to the healing they desperately sought? Suddenly, moments of laughter, joy, and warmth from their childhood flooded Clara's mind. Warm summer days in the backyard, fire pit stories, and family game nights. They could have that again. What followed next was a pause, charged and vulnerable. As their father opened his mouth to respond, Clara felt the air shift yet again. This wasn't just about discovering the dad they missed. It was about discovering their family anew, through truth and tenderness, but then their father's phone buzzed insistently in his pocket, breaking the fragile moment. He glanced at it uneasily. Suddenly, the reality of their present darkened the door of possibility. "It's business," he said, his voice strained. "I should know." Dylan interjected, a spark of determination igniting in him. The urgency of the moment was too precious to let slip. "Please stay," Andrew added, desperation creeping into his tone. "We just started to connect, Dad. Don't walk away." Clara's heart raced as she saw their father waver. What would he choose? Would he prioritize the call or remain present with his sons, the family that had fought to reach him? The air was thick with tension, and Clara held her breath. Would he lean in or step back again? The choice rested heavy in the silence, and Clara felt the world tilting on its axis. The phone buzzed again, this time louder, like a siren cutting through the fragile moment they'd created. Clara watched her father's face twist in conflict. The shadows of his past hovered there, intertwined with the promise of something new. Dad, Dylan's voice shook, but he pressed forward. "You don't have to choose just a call or just us. You can stay and still connect with your work after. We can do this together." Andrew reached out, squeezing Dylan's arm, fighting the rising tide of disappointment washing over him. "We all know what it's like to feel torn. But don't let this moment slip away. Just try." Their father's expression was a whirlwind of emotions, flickers of insecurity mixed with the remnants of pride. He glanced toward the exit, where the bustling crowd flowed like a river, oblivious to the world he was grappling with. Then he looked back at them, eyes glistening with uncertainty, and Clara held her breath, wishing she could draw them all closer. I can't just ignore my responsibilities," he finally said, the words tumbling out like stones from a crumbling wall. "People will always try to pull you in different directions," Andrew responded, his pulse racing. "There's always going to be more work, more calls. But right now, we're standing right here, wanting to be with you." The weight of the moment pressed down on them, a palpable silence stretching like an invisible thread between their hearts. Then, unexpectedly, a soft voice broke through. It came from a little girl, no more than 8 years old, seated a few rows away. Her wide eyes were filled with curiosity, and she tilted her head, determining if this scene was one worth watching. "Why don't you just be there?" she said, her innocent words cutting through like the simplest truth. "If you want to love them, just love them. It's not that hard." Time seemed to stop. The comment hung in the air, bright and clear, reverberating against the heavy walls they'd built. Clara felt her chest swell with a mix of disbelief and a promising sense of clarity. The girl's simple assertion had guts, and it struck a chord deep within their father. Taking a breath that trembled with possibility, their father turned to look at them, looking a little less burdened. "Maybe I've forgotten what that means," he murmured, almost to himself. "This could be our chance," Dylan interjected. "It's not too late, Dad. We can start fresh, right here, right now." Hope flickered in his eyes, a mirror of the innocence the little girl embodied. Clara felt warmth spreading through her. They were out in the open, laying bare the hurt, the years of silence. Their father seemed to lean in, the barrier of distance collapsing inch by inch. The little girl, still listening, offered a bright smile, her small hands clasped together. Clara could hardly believe how the most profound moments could come from unexpected voices. It was as if this child had been an angel sent just for them, but before their father could respond, the buzz of his phone interrupted again, drowning out the moment. He hesitated, eyes flicking back to the screen. Clara's heart sank as fear crept back in. "Please," Dylan's voice broke, raw with emotion. "Choose us. Choose this." Clara squeezed Dylan's hand, urging him to hold on to hope. And their father's gaze finally met theirs, swirling with uncertainty and fragility. Would he step into the light of connection or slip back into the dark safety of his work? The tension stung in the air as everything hovered on this precipice. In the end, Clara thought, the quiet girl's words echoing in her mind, "It's all about love, isn't it?" In that moment, everything felt vast with possibility, as if hope was teetering at the edge. The question lingered between them, like a door cracked open just enough to breathe. What would he choose? The silence thickened, encasing them in a bubble where time felt suspended. Clara could see her father battling against the dark clouds of indecision swirling inside him. He glanced down again at his phone, the screen glowing with notifications a world outside their fragile connection. But the echoes of the little girl's words floated in the air, urging him to take a step towards them. "Dad, please." Dylan's voice was desperate, and it wrestled with the noise of the crowded plane. "Just put the phone down," Andrew added, his grip tightening on his father's arm as though anchoring him to the moment. Clara's heart raced. This was at the moment when everything could change. She watched as her father's brow knitted tighter. Could he truly hear what they were saying? Could he embrace what had been lost for so long? Suddenly, the urgency of the moment transformed into a flood of memories for Andrew and Dylan. They recalled riding bikes in the summer, laughter echoing down the street. They thought of sharing secrets during late-night campouts and how their father had once been their greatest hero. The weight of the past pressed heavily on their chests, but with it came the hope of new beginnings. "We're right here, Dad," Clara whispered, letting her voice carry the love that hung unspoken between them. "You don't have to run away. We just want you with us." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Andrew's face. The phone buzzed again, but he didn't reach for it. Instead, he turned his attention fully to them, searching their faces as if looking for forgiveness, for acceptance. "But what if I mess this up? What if I can't make it work?" "Failures are part of life," Dylan interjected gently. "What matters is that we try, together. We'll figure it out. We always have." Their father took a shaky breath. Clara could see that he was letting go of something, fear, perhaps, or a part of his identity tied to his work. The lines on his forehead smoothed as he shook his head slightly, as if shaking off the weight of untold expectations. "I don't want to let you down again," he finally said, his voice cracking, vulnerable. A gentle warmth washed over Clara. "You already have. But look at us now. We want to move forward, not backward. It might be messy, and there could be mistakes, but it'll be real. We want to be a family again." His eyes filled with tears, reflecting their shared history. For the first time, she saw hope, and it sent shivers of anticipation through her. The little girl had been right, loving wasn't hard. It just took a leap of faith. And just as it felt like they were breaking through, the phone buzzed one more time, insistent, hungry for attention. Andrew flinched at the sound, and Clara's heart raced again. How close they were, yet how precariously balanced. "Just put it away," Andrew urged, his voice echoing Clara's plea. "We're worth more than whatever that is. Choose to be with us." Clara dared to look into her father's eyes, where the uncertainty danced with something new resolve. Would he take the plunge, choosing family over a fractured past? Would he stretch beyond his comfort zone? Andrew held his breath, waiting. Clara felt herself holding on to the moment, her heart pounding furiously, a vivid mix of fear and hope stirring inside her. And as Andrew leaned in, steeling himself to offer his father a smile of encouragement, everything hung in balance. The path to healing was close, but would they step together into the uncharted territory of love and forgiveness? But just as the tension reached its peak, a shadow overlapped the light of a potential new beginning. The flight attendant approached with a bright smile, breaking the fragile moment with a routine inquiry. "Sir, can I get you some refreshments?" Time started moving again, yet the moment felt fragmented. They could barely hear each other over the noise from the plane, their father's decision teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Clara felt the familiar fear creeping back in. What if they lost this chance? What if they returned to silence? "Dad," she breathed, waiting. Would he choose now? Or would he let the moment slip away? Andrew's gaze remained locked on his children, the flight attendant's presence a blur in the background. His heart raced like the plane flying above the clouds. The weight of that phone, and what it represented, felt heavier with every breath he took. Clara and Dylan's pleading eyes anchored him to the moment, pulling him back from the brink of escape. "Refreshments?" The flight attendant chirped again, her smile unwavering but tinged with confusion as she took in the palpable tension. Clara could see her linger, curiosity dancing in her eyes, but this moment was far too profound for such interruptions. "Dad," Clara urged gently, her voice now a whisper. "We're here. Just focus on us." Andrew's resolve flickered, like the light of a candle in the wind. Clara noticed the tiny shake of his hand as he finally lowered his phone, staring at it as if it were a foreign object. The buzz of notifications felt like thunder in this fragile space. He took a shaky breath, a mix of fear and courage swirling in him like a storm. "What if I can't fix this?" he finally admitted, the tremor in his voice cutting deep. Clara's heart ached for him, understanding that his fear of failure weighed on him like an anchor. "Life isn't about being perfect," Dylan replied firmly, prompting Andrew to look at him. "It's about being there for each other, even when it's hard. We've been through difficult times, but we're still here, together." Clara felt a surge of hope as she watched their father wrestle with his emotions. Every second stretched infinitely. Would he see that the very act of stepping out of his comfort zone was the catalyst for change? Andrew's eyes darted around, caught between what was safe and what could be. Clara reached out her hand, gentle yet firm, and Dylan mirrored her gesture. The three of them formed a bridge across years of silence. This connection was no longer about blame, it was about acceptance, about vulnerability. "Just be honest with us, Dad," Clara pleaded, the words escaping her lips like the last wisps of summer air. "We miss you. We miss this family." A tear slipped down Andrew's cheek, and the sight shattered Clara's heart in the best way. It wasn't a sign of weakness but an acknowledgement of their shared pain. In that moment, with all his pride stripped away, Andrew began to realize he wasn't his work or his past failures. He was their father, imperfect, yes, but capable of love. "I'm scared," he finally confessed, the admission hanging heavily between them. "I don't know how to start over." "Just start with us," Clara replied softly, squeezing his hand tighter. "We'll take the first step together." The flight attendant hovered awkwardly, sensing the weight of the moment, and eventually slipped away, leaving them in the cocoon of their own bond. The engine's roar softened to a hum, a reminder of the life moving forward. Andrew looked into Clara's eyes, and in that connection, something shifted. He shifted his posture, exhaling slowly as if letting go of a weight he hadn't even realized he carried. "I want to try. I really do." Clara felt a rush of warmth, a flicker of optimism igniting within her. Would this really mark the beginning of their healing journey? Yet as they leaned in closer, ready to embrace a new chapter, the overhead lights flickered, the seatbelt sign illuminated urgently. An announcement crackled over the speakers, interrupting the most tender moment of clarity they had shared. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing turbulence. Please secure your seatbelts." Hope warred with fear as Clara's heart plummeted. Was the turbulence merely atmospheric, or a signal of the storms they would face together? Would their newfound resolve withstand the trials ahead? Clara held her breath. Would they stay the course, or was the path ahead too rocky to navigate? Clara felt the rumble of turbulence, but this time it was different. Instead of fear knitting itself around her heart, a sense of solidarity filled the space between them. The plane shook, but hand in hand, they embraced the uncertainty. Andrew glanced at Dylan, and then to their father, determination glimmering in their eyes as they positioned themselves as a solid unit against the storm. "Let us just focus on each other," Andrew suggested, his voice steady despite the shuddering plane. "We can do this." Their father took a deep breath, a flicker of hope rising. "Okay," he murmured, "let us do just that." It was a small step, but one filled with promise. As they huddled closer, Clara felt warmth envelop them, a cocoon of shared vulnerability. The noise of the plane faded, replaced by the sound of their hearts beating in unison. Andrew initiated a conversation, asking their father about his own childhood memories, a way to weave the narrative of past and present together. "I remember being scared too," their father shared, his tone softer now. "There were times I felt like I didn't fit anywhere, like I was just a shadow in a room full of light." Clara smiled, recognizing the power of vulnerability. His words were like thread stitching together their broken pieces. Dylan leaned in, his voice earnest. But you can be our light now. We just want to know you. To see the real you. Their father's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, a mix of regret and something new, a budding readiness to be seen, to be the father they had yearned for. Clara squeezed their hands tighter, feeling a swell of love and hope radiating among them. I'm sorry, their father finally said, the weight of those words lighter than a feather yet heavy with meaning. I've been so lost. I didn't realize I was losing you and the chance to be a dad. The plane settled for a moment, and Clara could hear the gasps of passengers around them, caught in their own currents of emotion, but she was blissfully focused, wrapped in the precious cocoon of connection they were crafting. Let us be different, together, Andrew proposed, a renewed sense of purpose shining in his eyes. Let us create our own history. Dylan nodded vigorously. And involve you in our lives. Not just as a figure, but as a real part of our family. We can grow together. Clara beamed, her heart swelling with pride for her new friends. They were not just the Millionaire twins anymore, they were brothers navigating the world with determination, and she was right beside them, a part of their journey into light. The plane glided through the skies, turbulence subsiding into calmness, just as the atmosphere between them began to feel more stable. As they settled into this newfound terrain of emotional safety, Clara felt the warmth of connection thawing once icy barriers. In that pivotal moment, their father gazed at each of them. I promise to try. I want to learn who you are, the real you, together. Clara felt tears prick her eyes, not of sadness, but of relief and joy. They had begun to carve a path forward, a shared journey paved with honesty, vulnerability, and love. She knew this was just the beginning, but this moment belonged to them, mother, father, and children. As the airplane made its descent into Ohio, a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. Clara, Andrew, and Dylan knew they would face challenges, but they had each other, a trio tied not just by bloodline but by resilience and tenderness. They were ready to light up the path ahead. Soon the airplane touched down with a soft thud, and as they prepared to disembark, the weight of what lay ahead felt lighter. As they stepped into the terminal, Clara took a deep breath, embracing the unknown future with her friends. In that moment, she realized love could reshape destiny. They were bound not by wealth or status, but by their shared desire to understand, to love, and to heal. The weight of the journey would still be there, but together, they could face anything. Clara turned to the twins. Ready? She asked, her heart pounding with excitement. Together, they echoed, the sound ringing with determination. And as they walked into the terminal, hand in hand, Clara felt an exhilarating rush. Life was about to take flight, and she was ready for every moment ahead. Now it's your turn to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Your support is everything.